The opponent pivots into the tin can and Shadow Shark is about to go to work. We go straight for the Poison Fang, lowering Registeel's defense. Sharpedo now absolutely tearing through the opponent. We shield up the Focus Blast, commit to the full Waterfall farm down Sableye. Can't return, out comes Walrus, but the question is, does the opponent respect the damage? Well, you're going to have to watch the video to find out. A huge shout out to one of my good friends, someone I have shoutcasted before, Ricflairbest. He has outdone himself today. We've got Shadow Shark, double Fairy. Both Fairies are Shadow as well. So we're back to that triple Shadow action. And my God, this is an absolute massacre. We've got a full 4 sets for you all to enjoy. And all I'm going to say is buckle up and enjoy the show. And in game 1, we lead our Shark into Altaria. You hate to see it. We pivot out into Gardevoir and the opponent answers with Wish Cash. The charm damage is tearing apart. Wish Daddy Cash. They throw the Mud Bomb. Gardevoir shrugs it off and is going to return fire with the Synchronize. The opponent is going to shield it up. Wish Cash running out of HP. The opponent throws on alignment for the second time. That gives Rick the opportunity to flip switch. We commit our shield and it's Sableye in the back. Sharpedo had a dreadful lead, now is picking up the absolute dream backline. Flipping switch was absolutely everything. The opponent is going to have to return to take out the Shark, but one shield Mawile should be primed to sweep this game. Altaria can only hit with resisted damage with the charge moves of Sky Attack and Moonblast. The Dragon Breaths are triple resisted. Rick goes for the Iron Head bait. The opponent calls the bait, but that is not going to save him. Rick can shield up whatever they throw. They throw the first Sky Attack. Altaria is going to make Sky Attack number 2, but Mawile does shrug it off. Mawile commits to the Fairy Wind farm down. Sableye does return, even if they shield for no apparent reason, which they do. Rick says, I've got another Iron Head, and that is going to be all she wrote. GG's, and thanks for playing. Moving on to the next battle, we'll lead Shadow Shark into Walrein. Pretty good lead for our Shark. The opponent has to land the Earthquake. However, this opponent goes straight for the Icicle Sphere. Sharpedo, pretty glassy. However, we do shrug it off. Rick now over farms, goes straight for the knockout. Does the opponent respect the crunch? Yes, they do. So we've gained shield advantage in the opening matchup. We now come in to Mawile. Again, the opponent does have 2 Earthquake, and this opponent is the king of masturbating. They masturbated once, they masturbated twice, and now they think, fuck it, have a third masturbate to your face. Rick shrugs it off, over farms. He fires off the Iron Head on a CMP ties. The opponent's 4th attempt at a resisted charge move. Iron Head takes care of the Walrus. In comes Pelipper. Rick goes straight for the hard-hitting Play Rough. The opponent commits no shield, and Rick says, you're going to be the masturbator. I am going to throw the nuke. In the back, they have Sableye. We can safely shield up the foul play. Commit to the charm down, farm down. Pelipper is going to return. Weather Ball probably will take us out. However, Mawile will easily be able to Fairy Wind, farm them down, and that is a good game. The moral of the story is don't be a fucking masturbator. Moving on to the next one. We see another Walrus in the lead. This opponent also isn't even building up to the Earthquake. Rick commits no shields. Sharpedo is pretty glassy. However, I would always recommend building up to at least the Earthquake. But what do I know? We go for the Poison Fang. That lowers Walrein's defense. We are going to outpace to the Iron Head. The opponent this time choosing to commit to the Earthquake. They don't shield the Walrus. We have gained switch advantage. They come in to Medicham, and Rick not baiting, going straight for the Play Rough. Does Medicham respect the big damage? Unfortunately, yes they do. Medicham chooses to dump energy. Ice Punch, even resisted, takes us out. Well, surprised Medicham, you might have thought you got rid of our only Fairy type, but we have Fairy number 2. Rick saving 2 shields for his Charmer. Medicham decides to throw the Ice Punch and dip out into Sableye, and it's going to be high Sableye by Sableye. Gardevoir shields up the foul play, commits to the charm down, farm down, back out comes Medicham, and Gardevoir completes a very impressive sweep. Moving on to the next one. We see Sharpedo Into Sableye, the opponent is staying in. We are resisting the Shadow Claws, although someone forgot to tell Sharpedo they do resist anything, as we are getting pretty chunked by them. However, Rick does shield up, commit to the complete waterfall farm down. The opponent now comes in to Altaria, and we're going for the hard-hitting crunch. Altaria commits a shield, and we see a pivot out into Gardevoir. It's Swampert in the back, and the charm damage is absolutely ridiculous. By the time Swampert gets to the first Hydro Cannon there left in the yellow, it only takes 9 mud shots to make the back-to-back moves. They don't make it, and they think, fuck this, and concede the match. Moving on to the next one. We see another Shadow Swampert, this time in the lead. If you thought the charm damage was ridiculous, the waterfalls are just as comical. Swampert getting absolutely torn apart. The opponent pivots out into Gardevoir. Rick choosing to debuff them with a Poison Fang. We now come in to Mawile. Mawile triple resisting the Dragon Breaths and resisting all of the charge moves. The opponent goes for the Sky Attack, and the super squishy Mawile laughs it off. Rick now over farms, fires off the Iron Head. Iron Head is neutral with the lowered defense. It easily knocks out if Swampert does return. They are going to get hit with a Play Rough to the face. Back out comes Swampert. Are they willing to commit a shield? No, they're not. Down goes Swampert. They have Medicham in the back. Mawile going straight for the Iron Head. Iron Head only neutral, but Medicham is going to be forced to start shielding. The opponent chose not to shield, and Rick says save them shields for next season, trainer. GG's and thanks for playing. Moving on to the next battle, Sharpedo into Sableye. The opponent pivots out into the big tin can, and Shadow Shark about to go to work. We go straight for the Poison Fang, lowering the defense of the tin can. These waterfalls are now going to rip the opponent apart. We can shield up the Focus Blast, commit to the waterfall farm down. The opponent cannot return with Sableye. They're going to be forced to show their third. They come in to a Walrus, but the question is, does the opponent respect the big crunch damage? They do not. We get the defense drop. We manage to waterfall farm them down, and the opponent probably pretty confused, and they also quickly top left. You love to see it. Moving on to the next one. Sharpedo into Registeel. This is one of the very few matchups Sharpedo likes to see as lock-on. Doesn't actually do all that much damage. Rick goes straight for the Poison Fang. The opponent throws on alignment. Not that it really matters, as Sharpedo can one shield farm all the way down. Like you saw in the previous battle, we leave down a shield, but with residual energy. Good to go. The opponent now brings in Wishcash. Do they want to shield up the crunch? They do not. Again, we get the defense drop. The opponent does make a charge move on 1 HP and a Dream. Rick choosing not to shield it up. We come in to Mawile looking for the Fairy Wind farm down. The opponent pivots out into Sableye, and this opponent's in big trouble. The opponent looks to call the bait. They get one shot through 2 shields, and another battle absolutely flybys with Rick taking the dub. Moving on to the next one. Sharpedo into Mawile. We didn't see the fast move as the opponent pivoted out into the Flying Toilet. We answer with our own Mawile. We do shield up the Weather Ball. Rick now goes for the Iron Head bait, and the opponent does respect the potential Play Rough. Nice bait there from Ricflair. Ricflair shows he can also do a bit of masturbating when the opportunity does arise. We then tank the Weather Ball, make the Play Rough on 1 HP and a Dream. The opponent decides Pelipper is the MVP, committing 2 shields to force switch. Rick now gonna wait out his timer. Pelipper doesn't have all that much residual energy. This is just a resisted Weather Ball, but ouch, that hurt. We tank it on Sharpedo, pivot out into Gardevoir. We can't charm down before the opponent makes another Weather Ball. Rick now shieldless. With the 2 glass cannons remaining on the battlefield, out comes Mawile. The opponent is on Fairy Wind. For some reason, they overfarm far too much. Mr. Opponent, what the heck are you doing? Shadow Ball takes him out, and it's Wish Daddy Cash in the back. The opponent just needs to get to the back-to-back Mud Bombs. The first Mud Bomb is going to take care of Gardevoir, and the second Mud Bomb is going to take care of Sharpedo. I thought they pretty much fucked it with the overfarm. However, they did manage to pull off a nice comeback victory. GG's to that opponent. Moving on to the next one. Shadow Sharpedo into Shadow Swampert. The opponent getting absolutely torn apart. This opponent does build up to a potential Earthquake. The opponent full sends the Earthquake. They now pivot out into a Walrus. And Rick going to return the favour. Full sending the Crunch. The opponent lets it go and pivots out into Mawile. Mawile looking to CMP tie to the potential Earthquake. Does the opponent want to give up their first Protect Shield? Yes, they do. Rick with only one Protect Shield remaining looking to call the bait, and this opponent is no master baiter. They're full YOLOing, nukes left, right and centre, and they have a Mawile in the back. Sharpedo goes straight for the Poison Fang. Poison Fang draws the final shield from the opponent. The opponent is going to fire off the Iron Head. Rick with his last Protect Shield. Can we charm them down before they reach the second Iron Head? Yes, we can. And Gardevoir absolutely charms down everything for another dub. Moving on to the next one. Sharpedo into Sableye. They pivot out into Medicham, and Rick hard punishes them with the most oppressive charmer of them all, the Queen of Destruction, Gardevoir. We tank the Ice Punch, commit to the charm down, farm down. The opponent in a tricky spot. If they bring back Sableye, they're going to take a lot of damage. The opponent does come in to Sableye. They're now at 50% HP. We come in to Sharpedo. The opponent has enough for a return. We do shield up. They go for a bait, but Sharpedo says, I'm going to waterfall you down anyway. The opponent's final Pokemon is a Mawile of their own. We go straight for the hard hitting Crunch. The opponent does commit a Protect Shield, and we're in the Mawile Mirror. This is a matchup you probably aren't going to see anywhere else. The opponent on Fairy Wind and Power Up Punch. Interesting. We go straight for the Iron Head. The opponent looking to call the bait. They near get one shot. We Fairy Wind down, and Ricflair wins another game. Madness. Moving on to the next one. The Angry Shark having another tasty snack in the form of Swampert. The opponent throws the Hydro Cannon. We shield it up. They pivot out into the Walrus, and we fire off the Poison Fang looking to debuff the opponent. They return the shield. We pivot out into Mawile. As always, Ricflair's counting absolutely immaculate. He CMP ties the Walrus to a potential Earthquake. Iron Head lands for big damage. Ricflair chooses to invest the Protect Shield, and the opponent goes for a very sneaky master bait. Ricflair now over farming, firing off on another CMP tie to the next potential Earthquake. The opponent commits the final shield. Earthquake is going to return Mawile to its Pokeball. It's now all shields down. Rick waits out his timer, comes in to the Shark. One Waterfall takes care of the Walrus. What is that final Pokemon? We know Swampert is low. They come back in to the Swampert. They realise they're going to get farmed down. Switch out into Sableye, and Sableye's about to eat the biggest crunch of its life and gets absolutely deleted. Back out comes Swampert, and Shark has another tasty snack, finishing off another game. Moving on to the next one. We see Sharpedo into Linoon. We do resist the Shadow Claws. However, the Grass Knot or Thunder would kill Shark and all its family. It would be an absolute massacre. So Rick does shield up the Grass Knot, throws one more Waterfall, and the Poison Fang. Poison Fang does draw a shield from the opponent, and again we see the pivot into the Walrus. The opponent goes straight for the Icicle Sphere. This is resisted, but Sharpedo, not the bulkiest, that does manage to knock us out. We now come in to Mawile. Ricflair gonna overfarm, throw the Iron Head just before the opponent gets to a potential Earthquake. The opponent commits their final Protect Shield. We know Walruses love to bait. Ricflair does commit a last second shield, and surprise, surprise, this opponent is also a master baiter. However, Ricflair takes him out with an Iron Head. Linoon does return. They're not quite at a charge move. They fire off on CMP. The attack weighted Mawile wins the charge move priority event, and it's Altaria in the back, and the opponent quickly concedes. Very nicely done. Nightmare lead in the next battle. Sharpedo into Shadow Gardavoir. We pivot into our own Shadow Gardavoir, and the opponent answers with Sableye. This gives Rick the opportunity to flip switch. We shield up the foul play, commit to the charm down, farm down, back out comes their own Gardevoir. We can now send out our Mawile. Due to our steel typing, we do resist the charms. We're unable to fully Fairy Wind, farm them down, so Rick does fire off the Iron Head just before a potential Shadow Ball. The opponent commits the first Protect Shield. Rick not wanting to take any charm damage on his Shark, does shield up the Shadow Ball, commit to the Fairy Wind farm down, and it's Medicham. In the back we go for the bait. The opponent does shield it up, but I think we're absolutely doomed. We enter with our Sharpedo counter, tearing us apart. The opponent full sends a dynamic punch that is possibly the most overkill I have ever seen, and Medicham counters down Mawile as well. Moving on to the next one. Sharpedo into Reggie, the opponent aggressively switches out into Medicham. They get off one counter that actually does around 20% of our HP. However, we have the perfect response to Medicham as we come in to Gardevoir. The opponent YOLOs the Psychic, which is resisted. We do shrug it off. Gardevoir is going to return fire to this Registeel with a big fat Shadow Ball. The tin can doesn't shield. Gardevoir super squishy. The opponent looking to lock on, farm us all the way down. They do lock on, farm us down. However, they are now in one waterfall range. We do wait out our timer, come in, sneak the waterfall. We can shield up whatever the opponent throws. That waterfall you see go through is going to take him out, and it's Sableye in the back. Sableye in deep water. We're not baiting, we're going straight for the crunch. The opponent does commit a shield. However, they're in absolute dire straits. We are going to allow the foul play to go through. We come in to Mawile, and we're easily going to be able to Fairy Wind down the opponent and take the game. Rick chooses to fire off the Iron Head. The opponent does shield it up, but unfortunately I do think we are playing out the inevitable, just playing with our food. We do shield up the foul play. The opponent is going to make one more foul play. However, it is resisted. It isn't going to knock out, and we do take the dub. GG's. Moving on to the next battle, see Sharpedo into Zangoose. If the opponent does YOLO the close combat, we would get returned to our Pokeball. The opponent chooses to go for the Night Slash bait. However, Rick doesn't care as we easily one shield and farm them all the way down. The opponent now brings out Sableye into a loaded Shark. Interesting. Rick goes straight for the crunch. We get the defense drop. Waterfall now tearing through the opponent. Rick is going to allow his Shark to go down. We are going to come in to the Mawile, and it's Dusclops in the back. Dusclops does have access to Fire Punch. However, most run Ice Punch and Poltergeist. You need Ice Punch for that pesky Altaria. The opponent builds up to a potential Poltergeist. Rick calls the bait, and the opponent is not baiting. We now come in to Gardevoir. Hex is super effective. We can shield up whatever they throw. It's just an Ice Punch. However, Sableye is pretty low when they do return. 3 charms should be enough to take them out, and that is a good game. Holy smoke, shoutcasting this absolute madness at 2 times speed is somewhat of a challenge. Moving on to the next one. The Nightmare lead, Shadow Shark into Medicham. We pivot out into Mawile, and the opponent answers with Walrus. We land the play rough. The opponent doesn't even build up to the Earthquake. An easy no shield decision for Rick. We tank the Icicle Sphere. Rick now over farms, fires off on a charge move priority event. I really like Rick's energy management and fast move countering. The opponent lets it go, and just like that, the opponent is going to be very sad as losing switch is going to prove to be a huge problem. Medicham was feasting on the Shark, and in this huge swing of events, Gardevoir is now feasting on Medicham. They throw the Ice Punch. Rick commits the shield. It's Sableye in the back, and stay in school, kids. Learn to count. We make a savage catch, catching the foul play on our Sharpedo. We waterfall farm them all the way down. Medicham is going to counter us down. However, Gardevoir sneaks the charm. We are going to shield up whatever they throw. It's just a power-up punch. However, Medicham not going to be able to reach another charge move, and Gardevoir cleans up another battle. GG's, and thanks for playing. Moving on to the next battle, see Sharpedo into the tin can. The Shark going to go to work. Rick goes straight for the Poison Fang. The opponent very unlikely to shield. However, I'm going to have to eat my words. The opponent did shield it up. I imagine now we won't be able to waterfall farm them all the way down. However, we'll never know as the opponent pivoted out into Altaria, and Rick super quick on his response coming in to his Charmer. Rick is looking to commit a shield on the Sky attack, commit to the full charm down, farm down. When Registeel does return, they are going to have to respect the potential Shadow Ball. Rick over farms, looks to try and CMP the tin can to the charge move. The opponent does shield, and it is a CMP. Ricflair, you sir are playing fucking beautifully. The opponent goes for the Focus Blast, looking to lock on Farm Down. Gardevoir actually gets the resisted Charm Down, Farm Down, and it's Sableye. In the back we come in to Mawile. The opponent can throw whatever they want. The opponent goes for the foul play. We shrug it off, make the play rough, and play rough is going to be all she wrote. Ricflair, absolutely immaculate gameplay. GG's. Moving on to the next one, we see Sharpedo into Zangoose. The opponent pivots out into defense Deoxys, and we answer with Gardevoir. Due to our psychic fairy typing, we double resist the counters. Rick correctly shields up a Thunderbolt. The opponent is going to get farmed down before the next Thunderbolt, so they settle for the resisted Psycho Boost. Rick doesn't need to shield this up. It still does quite a lot of resisted damage. We get the full Charm Down, Farm Down. However, down a shield, we answer in the best spot, as Zangoose will be able to come in and Shadow Claw us all the way down. We fire off the Synchronize. That does get a shield off the Zangoose. They do farm us all the way down, back out. Comes Sharpedo. We look to catch the potential close combat on our Mawile. Rick does commit a last second shield, and it is the close combat. The opponent has Dusclops in the back. They fire after 3. And it's just a Shadow Punch. I was thinking, are we going to get Fire Punch? But apparently we are not. If you're going to use Dusclops, I think you want to run Ice Punch and Poltergeist. You can see these Shadow Punches are pretty pathetic. It's an alright move on something like a Haunter or a Gengar, as their attack weighted. Dusclops is defense weighted, and the move is pretty terrible. Rick now has a chance to get back in this battle. We take care of Dusclops aggressively switching to our Shark. The opponent fires a charge move. Is this a close combat? No, it's not. It's just a resisted Night Star. Shark does survive, and we pull off another incredible dub. Moving on to the next one. We see Sharpedo into Sableye. Great lead. The opponent throws on alignment. This means Rick can shield this up. Waterfall all the way down. The opponent switches out into Deoxys, and we're not baiting. Going straight for the crunch. Crunch lands. Fucking hell, they near get one shot. We snipe with Gardevoir. They come in to Pelipper, and I have no idea what the heck is going on now. That crunch was ridiculous. Defense Deoxys is one of the bulkiest Pokemon in the league. Crunch, not really the hardest hitting move, but from Sharpedo, it hit like a truck. We come in to Mawile. I've got super distracted. I imagine this is just a weather wall. They're probably not going to Hurricane our Steel type. The opponent pivots out into Sableye. We are going to start spamming out Iron Head after Iron Head. I'm so distracted, I don't even know if they've got any shields. Apparently, they've got 2. We catch the move on Sharpedo because why not? I've got no idea what the heck's happening in this battle. We do Fairy and farm them all the way down, back out. Comes Pelipper. It looks like a CMP tie. Please tell me Rick wins this game. Please tell me Rick wins this game. The opponent does shield it up, and unfortunately, despite that huge boom, we lose a heartbreaking battle. I'm definitely going to have to try and compose myself after that one. So, normal service has resumed. Sharpedo into the tin can. This time Rick doesn't throw first. He is going to shield up the Focus Blast. It looks like he is going to return fire with the crunch. Crunch won't knock out, but will do big damage. It near one-shots. The opponent pivots out into Medicham, and we answer with Gardevoir, and the opponent quickly says this matchup isn't for me. Wow, what an incredible showcase. Them last few battles really did push me to my limit. I think that's the first time I've just completely lost it altogether. Ricflair, that was incredible. Huge thank you, buddy, for the battle submission. So if you'd like your battles featured on the channel and you're bringing that incredible content like Rick, a link to my battle submission form is down below, as you can see on the screen. I did manage to reach Legend today after taking a bit of a break. My battles weren't very entertaining, so you won't see them. The team I used was Shadow Sableye, Shadow Walrein and Medicham. Pretty basic, pretty nonsense, but we made Legend nonetheless. So just like to say thanks for watching, and I will see you all in the next one.